Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm back with a new layout for the Paige Evans design team, and I'm going to be starting this layout with this gorgeous paper from the Truly Grateful collection. I've been waiting to use it, and today is the day. It's paper number 7, and these trees are so pretty. That's the other side of it. I love both sides. That would make a very cool background, but I've just got to cut these trees out and use them on a page. So that's where I'm going to start this page. I'm going to just start by fussy cutting. And these didn't take very long to cut out because the shape is pretty easy. And I didn't quite cut all of them out. I actually cut out too many, meaning that I still have some left over that I did not wind up using on my page, but that's okay because these make perfect embellishments, so I saved those for another project. So all I'm doing is cutting. I want to try to get a variety of colors, and yeah, I think what I'm going to do is sort of create another landscape layout. I did this several layouts ago for Paige Evans design team with a cut file, and I decided to do something similar with these trees. And this is a picture of me and my oldest daughter from, I think 2012 maybe. And yeah, I just thought it was a pretty photo to scrap and color. There are some little pink flowers on the big bush behind us. It's kind of hard to tell because they were kind of falling off, but there were still some pink flowers there, and it was just a pretty area to try to get a picture. So I printed it in color, and I thought that it would look nice with all of these colorful trees. So the first thing I'm going to do is coat this thick, smooth white cardstock with clear gesso, and I pretty much coated the whole thing. And I want to create a sky and some grass. And I'm using some shimmers. These are pretty much all of my go-to blues and greens for my shimmers products or shimmers projects. And this is Jenny B Blue mixed with Chance of Rain, and all I'm doing is spraying it down, spritzing it with water, and then just tilting the paper, and the water and the color just kind of does its thing. And look at the contrast between the pink and the blue. It's so pretty. So yeah, this is going to be my sky, and I don't want to cover the entire thing. I kind of want a big watercolor splotch of blue up at the top, and then a big watercolor splotch of green down at the bottom. And the last time I made a landscape like this, I used a lot of pattern paper and then did some mixed media over it. So I thought I would kind of scrap lift myself in a way, but make this one a lot different. Okay, so the greens that I'm using are Velveteen Green, Oh Say Can You See, and Elfin Magic. And some of these have shimmer, some of them don't. Some of them have gold shimmer, but I just think this is magical to watch. I love watching all the color just run this way and run that way, and then it kind of pulls in different spots to create lights and darks. I love it. Oh, so cool. All right, so I've got my grass and I've got my sky. You can kind of see what I was talking about there. I didn't want it to completely run off the edge. I wanted it to look like a big splotch of color. So this is a gold color, and I should have waited to do this at the end because the background is not 100% dry. It's pretty much dry, but it's still a little damp because I did add a lot of water. So this gold kind of doesn't really pop off of that background yet, but that's also a shimmers, and it's called Good as Gold. And it's kind of a yellow gold, but it's very, very pretty when it's dry. But I kind of went to dab it up, and you can still kind of see the shimmer right there. So pretty. But I'm going to come back later and do more gold where it's going to be more visible. So now I'm just going to start to build the design. I thought about putting the photo to the side, but then I just came back and decided to do it right in the middle, and then kind of do the trees on either side, and just gonna overlap and try to make sure that I'm using a variety of colors on each side. And I think this turns out really, really cute. I think a landscape design is something easy that you can do, but it creates a big impact because it's pretty easy to create the blue and the green, and then if you've got trees or if you've got flowers or little houses, anything that could be, that you could see in a landscape. I think it would be pretty to do and pretty easy, because the sky and the grass takes up a lot of space, and then by the time you add your embellishments, your design is pretty much done. Okay, so you saw me playing around with the trees there. I did add some tissue paper and some adhesive foam behind my photo there, just to give it a little bit of dimension and texture around the edges. And I want to use this big die cut word that says together. That is from the die cut ephemera pack. And there are a couple words in there, and it's this really pretty matte gold color. And I thought that would be pretty because I do want to add more gold splatters at the end. And so I thought that would be a nice touch. And I love how all these colors are popping against the sky and the grass. I'm going to overlap one of the trees right on top of the picture, but not on the other side. I don't want to clutter the photo up too much. I want to leave some of that space around me and my daughter in the picture to kind of have some separation between us and the trees. I felt like if I layered too many trees, it would kind of cramp us in, and it wouldn't make the focal point of the photo stand out, which is me and my daughter. And so I felt like we need some space between all the trees, if that makes any sense. All I'm doing here is adding some adhesive foam behind the trees that are going to be in front. The bigger trees in the back are going to be just glued flat down, and then I wanted the smaller trees in front to be a little dimensional. So that's all I'm doing there, is adding some foam behind there. And that's just foam I get at Walmart. It's the kids craft foam. It's in the craft section, and it's awesome because it has adhesive on one side, and it's pretty thin, but it's just the right width or height to pop things up off the page. And you can cut it, you can bend it, it's perfect. All right, so I am going to add some thread because I love thread. I love the texture it creates. I love the pops of color that it gives. And I'm just going to go along the edge of the bottom of the photo there. I've got some yellow, some pink, some purple, and I just want it to kind of look like a little bit of color and interest underneath the word together. So you'll be able to see that kind of peeking through all those letters. Now I tried to go with some green. I thought that I might add some in between all the trees, but it just looked distracting and kind of messy. So I decided to do the green kind of under the trees, but more to the corners of the photo. So you can kind of still see that pop of that lime green color, but it's still very subtle and it doesn't take away from the trees. All right, so I know that the photo is going to stay there and everything is going to be right where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and start to glue things down in and around all that thread that I added. And my paper, my background paper, it did curl up a little bit because I did add a lot of gesso, I did add a lot of liquid, but all I really do to flatten out the paper like this is I lay a couple of heavy paper pads from my shelves right on top of it pretty much overnight, and the next day everything is pretty much flattened out. All right, I'm going to add a little sun. I'm addicted to these suns. This is from paper number 14. I think I have cut out so many of those suns between my Paige Evans layouts and my mini album that I made not too long ago, and then my hip kit layouts, because this paper is also in the August hip kits, and I think I've used that sun on several papers or several layouts, but I love it. So what I'm going to do here is I thought since I have a sky, it needed some clouds. So all I'm doing is using my little foam ink blending tool there that I use with my Distress Oxides a lot, and some white acrylic paint. I'm just dabbing it in and then kind of dabbing it right onto the blue, kind of in a little circular smudgy motion there to create just a little bit of white puffy looking clouds. They don't look like perfect clouds, but you get the idea of clouds in the sky there, and I love doing that when I make a sky. So I'm going to use one of these words. These are the Puffy phrase stickers, and I'm going to use Grateful. Since this is a, kind of a fall-ish layout, and I wanted to use the word grateful, and I love the color because I thought the pink was a nice addition against that green there. And so I'm going to use my ruler because there's no way that I would get those perfectly straight. And I did add some glue behind those because things do not like to stick to gesso. So I did glue those down very carefully, but I didn't make you watch that because it's not very exciting to watch. So I pulled this little die cut, it says "You amaze me," and I ruffled up the edges there. I'm going to stick that right above the photo there. And then this sticker here says "Happy Day," and I'm going to raise that off the page with some adhesive foam again. And then these little puffy stickers are adorable. They're little birds, they're butterflies, acorns, there's a squirrel. So I thought I would kind of add some little animals since we've got a little forest of trees going here. I'm going to use a couple of the birds and then a couple of the butterflies above the photo. And I wanted to use this little rabbit, but I couldn't find the right spot for it. I do use a couple mushrooms. I can say 100%, this is the very first layout in my entire life that I've used mushrooms on it. I've never used mushrooms on a layout, but for some reason they just looked cute. They were tiny. We're in the woods, might as well. So here I decided off camera, I took a little break and decided to do some machine stitching, and I just created some little trails from the butterflies there, and then some little lines underneath some of the trees and the mushrooms there. And I did add a little squirrel. I had put some acorns in the trees, but it just got a little too busy, I think. So I just took those off and added the birds, the butterflies, and that little squirrel because he was just too cute. And then, yeah, the stitching, I just use white thread. It's very subtle, but it just adds some fun detail, and you can see it better in the close-ups at the end. So I do add some more thread. I went with yellow for a little pop of that color right there underneath the Happy Day sticker. And I love how this is turning out. I love that it's so colorful, and you know, at the same time it's pretty simple. It's not too busy, and you kind of get the idea of a landscape. Instead of writing my journaling, I thought that I would do something a little different, and I printed it on my computer and then cut it into strips. I printed it on regular printer paper, and then I glued that to some cardstock and then cut the strips out so the strips would be a little thicker. And I like the way that looks. So I just glued those down, and then I'm going to come back now with that Good as Gold shimmers from earlier and do a little bit more splattering. And I find that if I let it air dry, it's a little more bold, whereas if I dab it up with a paper towel, it does lighten up quite a bit. Like there, it kind of vanishes. So I do add some more without, I just let it air dry. But anyway, there's the final layout. I love how this turned out. It was so much fun to make. Those trees are amazing, and I highly recommend you get your hands on that paper. Again, it's paper number 7. But yeah, look at the little squirrel and the mushrooms. They're so tiny and cute. I just had to use those. Love that. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions about any of the Truly Grateful collection, any of the pieces in it, or any of the shimmers that I mentioned. I know I use them quite a bit, and sometimes I forget to say the names, and if you need to know a specific name, just let me know. I love how this turned out, so I hope you guys did too. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you in my next video. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you so much.